There we go. I can be heard, right? These constant doubts, yeah. I was hoping to take a break. Oh, I got the trophy. And as you can see from my inventory, I have already beaten Duke Fishron once. I wanted to make sure that my strats were good and I wouldn't mess anything up. When it comes to changes in between this part and the last, I got another necromantic scroll because I figured an extra minion slot is probably worth more than the stats of the celestial emblem, which I forget where I even left it. But yeah, I farmed Martian saucers for the Xeno staff because I realized, in spite of dealing less damage, it effectively deals more damage to the two bosses that I got stuck on. So, it's funny. I guess what Algol said doesn't really apply in this case, because if you don't use this specific summon item that you have to farm, I think I killed a 6 or 7 Martian saucers to get this thing, which took 2 or 3 Martian Madness events. Yeah. If you don't get this thing, it's gonna be way worse. It's annoying. I was so close. It is possible to do with the Deadly Sphere staff. Maybe I could have changed something else, but man. Everything is so overstated in Master Mode. Anyway, I think it would be best to leave the Duke Fishron trophy in here. I think that makes sense. I'll open both of these treasure bags and let's see. Okay, so the Shrimpy Truffle, if I remember correctly, is actually another flying mount. It's way better underwater, and I think it gives you a damage buff after entering water. I think it's also really good if you want to fight some endgame stuff with a flying mount, but you would need to leave pockets of water around. The party girl actually sells something practical related to that. Bubbles. Oh yeah, it does even say blocks passing liquids. But you can pass through the bubbles themselves. So let's say I did something like that. There could be a little bit of liquid in the center and I can pass through it and activate. It's not just a speed buff, it also gives you a damage buff with this mount. I think I'll switch to the Witch's Broom because it doesn't require setup like that and it's reasonably fast, just moving around. Razorblade Typhoon would be awesome. I didn't even fight Fishron on my Mage World, I just didn't care. But the Tempest Staff is what I want. Apparently there's a whip as well, but it didn't seem worth it. Like, the Morning Star is possibly just better. I'll try to get some kind of modifier on this thing, though. Although I'm not sure. There might not be much of a point, because I'm planning on using a specific item instead. And for the time being, I want to practice Empress of Light. the normal way before the hard way. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you'll find out in a bit. What the hell? Put the mask in here. So anyway, I was thinking, I'll finish the playthrough the same day, I won't have to worry about it. Then I can just focus on other games and stop playing Terraria for a while. And it turns out I wasn't just feeling weird that day because I didn't sleep well. I spent an entire day sick and throwing up. But now I feel better. I don't know if it's something I ate. Apparently I have a sensitive stomach, but only sometimes. Anyway. I did get the actual boss pet item. I'm not sure if I've ever seen it before. Harpies are more fun. While fishing to replenish my buffs, which is another thing I did, look at all that, I got the barnacle staff from the jungle. Hanging barnacle to poison enemies. I haven't tested it out. If I'm doing venom, maybe it's better than the Queen Spider staff. I'm not entirely sure. It is nice that it floats around, so what the heck, I'll try it. There are even better sentries I could be using, but one of them is in a biome chest and I'm not farming a biome key. And I do also have the Flame Burst staff, which is probably better. But yeah, the redundancy of the venom buff is a bit of a concern. Built another platform here, placed more buff stations all over the place, moved to the few Bast statues I have here. I didn't catch the pun, but the Bast defense. Or maybe I did mention it before, I can't remember. I might have vomited some of my brains out. So I might have lost some information somewhere along the way. Now I'm gonna fight the Empress of Light. But while I wait, when I mentioned seasonal events, you get, during October, you get goodie bags as random drops from enemies, and I think there are a few unique cosmetic versions of enemies. Like, rabbits will be dressed up in costumes, and slimes will be dressed up in costumes as rabbits and stuff like that. I think zombies and Demon Eyes also had Halloween costumes, but essentially these bags get you vanity items. And rotten eggs if you want to kill NPCs that way, I guess. Nothing major. Oh, why'd you replace my... Oh, because the wizard had his actual armor. Okay, here goes. Guide to Peaceful Coexistence is off. I'm still worried that I won't be able to hit the lace wing in time, so I'll come down here. But the thing about the goodie bags and the Christmas equivalent, which is during December, you get presents with more festive outfits, is doing Pumpkin Moon or Frost Moon will activate the seasonal drops for, I think, one in-game day, or maybe a couple. I haven't timed it. Yeah, you don't need to mess with your calendar to fool the game into thinking the seasonal time is right. You can just do the events and get the outfits in the late game, which is kind of nice, but I won't be messing with that. The Xeno staff is also great against the Empress, so hopefully this all works out the way I want it to. I'll just reset the duration on my buffs, it's fine. So buff. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you. 9 UFOs is my max, and that's off so I can kill this thing. Here we go. Yeah, her contact damage that she has passively is incredibly annoying. Really not a fan of that. Yeah, my best bet for dealing with the curving stars is to just get out of their range. There's no point in trying, really. micro-dodging her projectiles also doesn't make much sense. I'm better off just running away. That's why a bullet hell boss doesn't really work in Terraria unless you confine the player to a space where both micro and macro dodging would be necessary, or better depending on the circumstance. And hey, Terraria's nothing resembling a good shmup, that's for sure. Uh-oh. That attack is a little intimidating. Phase 2 is certainly more intense, but you can see how I just, oh, really? I didn't move up fast enough. Okay, I can give that another try. Just need to avoid a bit better in Phase 2. Maybe I should move further up, honestly. So anyway, a little, actually really cool thing about the Empress of Light is if you summon her during the day, she will instantly kill you with all of her attacks. They do thousands of damage, I think. But if you kill her during the day, if all of the damage dealt to her is during the day, you are guaranteed to get a really good summoner weapon, which again I'm getting deja vu. Did I just rehearse this by saying it out loud to myself, or am I actually repeating myself? Anyway. Also take a bite out of the cake seems like a decent idea. Yep. I think if I'm quick with the Ichor spell, I can kill the Lacewing during the day, no problem. I felt that would have been kind of annoying, but I don't think it would be a big deal. The question is, do I actually want to do it on camera, even though I haven't practiced this fight that much? Because I don't really need the drop from Daytime Empress. I do kind of want it, but in any case, this fight is fun enough when you have a reasonable arena setup. I do ultimately like it, in spite of all of my issues and comments. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not great. Yeah, she has the usual stream of homing projectiles and then more scattered homing projectiles. There we go. Nothing too crazy, I would say. I think the expert item is kind of interesting. Infinite wing and rocket boot flight. And increased flight and jump mobility. Worth noting, I also ignored the Empress of Light when I played as a mage, so I used the mount instead of this. Technically, you don't need that mount. You're not devoid of options, it's just... yeah. I seem to remember that her wings are pretty good. I swapped to Festive Wings because I realized they're better, but I think hers are even better, and they actually have a unique ability. Which, yeah, lets you accelerate vertically pretty well. It's a ranger weapon. It looks cool, at least. Now I can place these relics. I already have an idea of where to place the relic of the final boss. There is one other boss before the final boss. I will... oh. What am I doing? Could have just quick stacked it in there. Or quickly moved it into the chest. Anyway, details. This is definitely more worth my money to modify. Armored. Armored is good enough. Looking at my items again, I wonder if replacing the summoner emblem with the insignia makes sense. The Brain of Confusion is also a consideration. Oh, and of course, fighting the Daytime Empress means that there really isn't much of a point in having full warding gear. It's just, it defeats the purpose. And I think I can try Hallowed Armor, which is definitely worse statistically, but the ability to dodge an instance of damage is worthwhile. I can just sort of fly across the world and try to beat her that way once. I think her patterns are easy enough, I just need to pay attention. And then after that, endgame, absolute final stuff. I think valuing minion slots, especially since these accessories come with damage boosts as well, makes more sense. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Oh yeah, since the Papyrus Scarab and the Necromantic Scroll are two different items, technically I can equip both of them, even though they have nearly the same effect. There's just plus 5% damage and minion knockback on the Papyrus Scarab. Okay, if I don't do this right, I won't even get to attempt the fight once, so... Endurance definitely doesn't matter, that's kind of funny. Okay, slot 3 selected. Really? Could have sworn that would work. Well, now I'd have to go to the next night and farm the damn prismatic lace wings again. In any case, it's the same fight. I think all of her attacks are like really bright and she one-shots you. The summon is extremely accurate. It's like a bunch of summoned swords that just zip over to enemies and slash them repeatedly. I was just a little impatient, admittedly. I could have gotten more lace wings so that that doesn't happen, or if I die I could try again. I'm sorry. It's a little silly of me. But I do want to acknowledge that that's actually a cool way of handling boss drops and having an additional challenge. And even though you kind of just run away from her continuously and attack her with something that never misses, it is a fight where no damage play is reasonable and clearly expected because of the daytime version of the fight. Okay. Let's get this over with. Not deadly spheres, what am I doing? Although actually I'm not sure if deadly spheres are better or worse. I think these are better because some of the enemies are going to be really fast. So, killing these cultists, which the archers will start shooting you. The ones chanting will chant faster, summons the Lunatic Cultist. And I'm going to fight him confined to this room, because I think that's a fun way of doing it. And he's actually a pretty decent boss, it's just that when you're running around, he's very easy. But in here, especially on Master, he will be a challenge. That's the real one. It's a shell game. If you hit the wrong one, he summons a dragon enemy that uses the worm AI. And that thing can be really dangerous. Need to be careful. You can actually die in here pretty easily. That's the real one. If you can't tell, it's the one that has different lighting and an angry expression on the mask. Interestingly, if... Oh god. I might actually die here. Ah. Did he die or did he disappear? I see gore of him right there. Ugh. Might have underestimated him. You do actually have to dodge most, if not all, of the attacks in there, if you confine yourself to that room. Another thing he does if you mess up the shell game is he gains a clone who will assist his other attacks. I forget what exactly the clone does. It shoots extra projectiles. But if you mess up the shell game when a dragon is still alive, he'll summon an incredibly rare enemy called an Ancient Vision. It's like this yellow squid head. Imagine something 2 or 3 times the size of the player character, and it just chases you around. It's kind of interesting. I think it's because multiple dragons spawning would be really difficult. The only problem is I can't quite remember how often and when, yeah, the cultists respawn, so I'm gonna have to maybe change the time of day. I think it was every morning. Oh, but that's on cooldown. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Huh. Well, if I can think of some things to talk about, damn it. I still feel a little underprepared in spite of all the farming. Maybe I was too busy being practical, but not theoretical. If I throw a couple of sentries in there, it'll be fairly easy to finish him off next time. Oh, okay, that works. Good. And yeah, I did craft all of my visibility buffs as well. Oh, even the archers hit that hard, really. Okay, here we go. I think I could have a better whip from the Empress, but I've had enough farming at this point, I'll just make do. Yeah, contact damage on enemies that move like that is really, really silly. This is the real one. I think he's immune to Acre, I forgot about that. Well, that attack is just gonna dissipate in the wall because he was very stupid. Uh-oh. Okay, I can still hit him through the wall. That's right. That is nice, but some weapons can't do that, so if you're, say, using a gun, you can't shoot through tiles, and you won't be able to stop the shell game. But I think that's kind of good, actually. You'll see more of what this boss can do. Okay, I was a little worried there for a second. Celestial creatures are invading. And I have an ancient manipulator now. That's the only thing you get from the Lunatic Cultist. And now we are firmly in the end game. I'll definitely use the soaring insignia, which I kind of forgot about, but there are platforms in here anyway, so just falling through them. If I look at the map now, there's some new stuff around. The solar pillar, Stardust Pillar, the Nebula and Vortex Pillars. These are part of the final event. It's sort of an invasion event, but it's different from the others. I have to destroy each of those pillars. They sort of create their own localized biomes. And really dangerous enemies spawn there. You need to kill a certain number of them to be able to destroy the pillar. So there are all the relics except for the final boss. You know what, I could practice and do a little extra video figuring out what I'm doing wrong with killing the Lacewing. The weapon you get from Daytime Empress could be my Infinity +1 sword. I can just do it after I beat the final boss. But with gear from before the final boss. You'd have to farm the final boss for the best gear anyway, so can save myself some work. So each of these pillars corresponds to a specific damage type. Solar is melee, Nebula, which is right next to the house there, that's funny. Nebula is magic, Vortex is ranged, and Stardust is summon. So I want to do the Stardust Pillar first. Am I missing anything? Not really. Could eat some of that cake, I guess. Here goes. Actually, I think I should be able to fly around, and I'll be fine. There's some unique music here. Oh, 100. I could have sworn that wasn't a thing anymore. That's the number of enemies you have to kill to break the shield around the pillar. I admit there are some very flashy visual effects during this event. This pillar just vomits enemies at you continuously. The other pillars have slightly different abilities. The Stardust cells will split and multiply, which you can actually farm them to break the shield faster. Like if I just ignore the small ones, the big ones will keep coming after me and keep multiplying. I believe on classic mode and maybe expert mode, I can't remember, you only have to kill 50 enemies to break the shield, but I think either they didn't change it the way I seem to remember them changing it, or Master Mode just sucks in another way. It's 100. Like, I'd nearly be done at this point, but there's more. The enemies on the ground can sort of fire the scatter shot of projectiles at you. I sometimes get blindsided by that. Those squid things shoot individual summoned enemies as projectiles at you. And fire all of them when they die, which is at least kind of neat, but my issue is how blue everything is, and how the attacks blend in with the enemies and the background sparkly details. All in all, I think I'm gonna go ahead and say that the Lunatic Cultist is the last really fun thing in the game. Like, I actually enjoyed dodging all of his distinct attacks in there. And for what it's worth, having essentially a player character mage as an endgame boss is kind of a cool idea. I think some mods would take the idea of player character bosses and make it way cooler than that in execution. One of the reasons I love Shadows of Abaddon. It ends with a pretty cool... Well, let's just say there are rival characters in that mod. And I was not expecting that. But it worked surprisingly well. Yeah, these pillars, it's the same thing as farming kills in most of the other events. And then you just have to... Oh, wait, I was misremembering. Those guys fire lasers. Very similar looking enemies from the other pillars shoot projectiles. There is a slight delay before the lasers fire, but they're kind of ridiculous. Each pillar gives you fragments that let you make some endgame weapons. Only weapons. The armor is after beating the final boss. So the armor is basically infinity +1 armor as well. By the time you have it, you've beaten the game, so what's the point? Technically, you can have fun with the Pumpkin and Frost Moon, try to get a high score, see how far you can reach. There's a point where the events just spam bosses at you, and that is kind of fun to see how long you can live and how many of them you can kill with an optimized build. I think I'll place the... what was it called again? Ancient Manipulator, right here. And with these fragments I can make a Stardust Cell Staff, Stardust Dragon Staff, and Constellation, which is part of the reason I didn't want the whip from the Empress, because in Bigger and Bolder they added this whip along with some other summoner items. 15 tag damage, 15% tag critical strike chance. Your summons will focus strike enemies to scatter friendly stars. Sounds pretty good to me. Agile. It's fairly fast. I'm questioning if I want the... right, that's where I left them. The Berserker's Glove, but I think it won't really be necessary. I don't need the auto swing, I'm not lazy. I'll just press the mouse button repeatedly. Then the question becomes Cell Staff or Dragon? I think the cells are much slower, although I'm not sure if their DPS is better. I seem to remember that the Dragon Staff is just better, so I'll use that as my final summoning item. And with the gold I saved up, I can modify these last few items. Heavy, quick, dangerous. Sharp seems good enough to me. I believe Ruthless would be best for this thing. Although that's also fine. Yeah, I won't waste any more time. The UFOs are great, I quite like them, but the dragon is a summon which, the more of it you summon, you just buff the one summon. And yeah, I think that's as many as I can have, but I can buff myself to have one more, so I'll do that. And I think I want to take care of the Solar Pillar now. This is probably the worst one. It has the worst enemies. And those enemies have gimmicks that are kind of restrictive. For example, I'm going to have to stay on the ground, because one of the enemies will absolutely murder you if you're flying. But yeah, all the pillars require 100 kills. I could have sworn that they changed that because it was terrible, but I guess not. So I'll just stay here. Actually, this terrain is great. Yeah, that thing, the Crawltipede. You have to hit a weak point on its tail to kill it. And it's passive unless you're flying, in which case it'll hunt you down at ridiculous speed. And it hits like a truck, so you're basically not allowed to fly during this pillar. I think it's supposed to reflect like melee combat on the ground, but I don't think the pillars do a great job of really challenging each class. But again, the classes are functionally so similar. How do you even uniquely challenge each class? I don't really blame them for just having tough endgame enemies spawn. Not gonna lie, this is pretty dull. The enemies are super fast. I think some of them kind of force you into the air, so it's supposed to be like a deadlock of enemies with different approaches. For what it's worth, I do like that the pillars will appear in different places in your world each time. Like the order they were in won't be the same if I repeat this event. And Oh yeah, I see the stars. Oh, that's kind of cool. There's just more damage, really, so... In practice, it's not different from just a whip that does more damage, right? What was I saying? In this case, the terrain I have is sort of helping me cheese this, but... At least in theory, it could be different in the finale of the game each playthrough, at least the pillars. Perhaps not the final boss. Yeah, even on Expert, I would say the enemies here are really fast and hit really hard to the point where it's kind of ridiculous. On Master, it's just even worse. So I do not feel bad about being out of harm's way here. I have to actually walk over there and kill the blasted pillar. There it is. For what it's worth, this pillar shoots lobbed projectiles, so you could get hit by those and die. And since I was too distracted earlier, you're overwhelmed with pain. When I destroyed the previous pillar, it said your mind goes numb, so you can tell that something bad's going to happen. Obviously. That was actually the worst pillar, and I didn't die a single time. That's excellent. I could make melee weapons with these solar fragments. They're actually kind of cool. In fact, I'm considering taking the Daybreak. And I will. Purely because it's pretty easy to just implement into any class. It's melee, so it benefits from my Venom buff. Each spear sticks in the enemy and does, I think, stacking damage over time up to a certain number of spears. I just don't think my whip is going to cut it during the final boss, so I'm going to use that. Maybe it's a little lame, but... So during this one, I should be able to just fly around. And yeah, those are the projectile ground-based enemies I was thinking of. These stupid things, I do not care for in the slightest. They teleport. They have a high-velocity projectile with no telegraph, so it just kind of hits you sometimes. Again, I don't think the projectiles stand out compared to the background. It's just so easy to die during these events. It's so annoying. And yet your progress persists. So you can kind of just throw yourself at the pillars until you inevitably win. Yeah, the combination of random teleportation, contact damage, and that projectile attack is... For the record, I've beaten Master Mode as every single class. I've beaten the game many times before Master Mode was added. Never once have I figured out a way to consistently deal with these stupid brain things. I think they're just unfair, considering the game's movement and mechanics. You just kinda gotta hope that they don't surround you in a way where you can't possibly react and dodge. That was only 30 out of 100. Well, I will throw myself upon this brick wall again. It'll break eventually. Yeah, the other enemies almost don't matter. The ground-based guys can mess you up. I forgot to mention, those bubble blocks, you can also encase honey in them to get the honey buff for even more survivability. Yeah, there's also nothing stopping you from just flying out of range of the pillar and recovering. Yeah, this event is... If it was better, I wouldn't feel like cheesing it, that's for sure. That wyvern is the least of my concerns. I'd like to remind you that I'm wearing full warding gear. Although I think my defense could be better. almost full warding gear. One point of defense might give me an extra hit every now and again, but I don't know. I think the best solution to the enemies here is to just kill them before they do anything. Heart Reach potions are actually a good idea. The enemies here, you have to kill a lot of them. They have a decent enough chance of dropping hearts. It's saved me on occasion. Maybe it's the normal rate, actually, but still, you're killing a lot of enemies. Yeah, it's not that high. It's not like the Pumpkin and Frost Moon, where bosses just hemorrhage hearts when they die. Oh, you know what it is? I was probably thinking of mods that lower the necessary kill count back down to 50. Yeah, definitely. That's funny. Yeah, I would call this artificial difficulty. Doing the same thing for at least twice as long is not... Keep in mind, the enemies have higher stats on top of the doubled kill count. I think higher difficulties also increase enemy spawn rates, at least by a little. Maybe that evens out, but regardless, even if it's slightly less than twice as long, it's still really lame. Okay, one pillar remains. Vortex is... It doesn't have the worst enemies, I don't mind it. Although it has some debilitating status effects that you can't have immunity to. Oh. Well, I can simply... I would like to point out, I have never explicitly farmed for recall potions. I've just been using whatever recall potions I find in chests. And I've been using them with reckless abandon whenever it's even remotely convenient. And I still haven't run out by the end of the game, even with all of my farming. So yeah, you don't need a magic mirror, I would say. I think I'll throw my sentries there. This pillar summons portals that shoot stuff at you. It has these alien hornets and soldiers. The hornets grow into adults and then drop eggs when they die. The eggs will grow into more hornets. You can do something similar. That's an adult right there. You can do something similar with the with this pillar as you can with the cells of the Stardust Pillar. And I definitely recommend that to get by the... I would accept this pillar and the Stardust Pillar having 100 kills necessary, because at least you can speed it up immensely by letting the enemies multiply. So you could argue some form of strategy, but the other two pillars should have 50 kills as normal. They have these lightning bolts coming out of the portals as well as enemies spawning. So you want to watch out for those. But yeah, nothing to say. Gotta kill 60 more enemies. What do you want from me? Yeah, genuinely all the pillars have visibility issues. The projectiles from the hornets are like this vague stream of particles. I mean, I know where the hitbox is, but still, they don't really stand out. They're also really tiny. Ugh. Yeah, I don't think this alien armed with a shotgun is supposed to... I think these sentries are kind of weak now that I look at it. Oh well. I don't think those guys are supposed to kill you with contact damage, but that's what happened. Alright. Into the fray once again. I guess I can leave one cake here. Yeah, that seems fine. And last time I fought the final boss, I beat it on my first try. With any luck, this will be no different. Yeah, this actually does around 200 damage per hit, so that's definitely better. No. Yeah, default contact damage on everything combined with tracking behavior is really annoying. And you can see how, like, yeah, it wasn't at full life, but I have increased maximum life by 100. High defense, and still, I just get obliterated. There very likely is a better setup than this. Oh, by the way, I think there was something I can do with all of the fragments that I might want to... Yeah, for instance, these are all the mage things. But we also have super healing potions, which are an upgrade to the greater healing potions, which in this case is just 20 more life. But I have nothing else to do with the fragments, so when I destroy this last pillar, I'm gonna make as many of these as I can right before the final boss starts. I guess I can wait for the regeneration to do its thing. Not that that's fun at all. Oh, a Lantern Knight. That might... Actually, no, I don't have crits. I'm not sure that does anything for me. Technically, luck increases your DPS because it does reroll non-crits into crits, I think. And I think I mentioned the random damage variation, so that might also affect it. Anyway. That's the guy who killed me, I think. I think maybe I should stick with the, well, should have, because I'm not changing that now. But the Brain of Confusion might be a good idea just because everything hits so hard, so a chance to ignore damage is valuable. 200! I would die and mind you, they also have slight random damage variations, so... Let's be generous and say, after getting hit twice, I'll have over 200 life so I can survive a third hit. But still, it's absurd. This would be over already if I wasn't in... I really hope that at least Expert Mode doesn't have the increased kill count. I hope they at least changed that and they decided, well, Master Mode should be miserable, so we'll increase it for Master Mode only. That's wishful thinking. I don't even remember what they did. I'll try to focus on beating the final boss and then I'll talk about it. There will be plenty of time after the fact. Yeah, so many kills are required that you get the banners before you beat the pillars. I think that's the first time we saw the distortion effect when the shield breaks. It does look really cool, and I will admit. I just wish all of this visual polish was for something that I actually enjoy gameplay-wise. Okay, back to base. Impending doom approaches. Super healing potions. Screw that jungle juice, I don't need it. I will just fly continuously in one direction. Probably this way. And hopefully, this will be one and done. Forget how long this takes. It does take a little Well, I guess to let you finish your staging. Is this it? Yeah. This is the Moon Lord. I do not care for him. No, sir. He is not very fun or good. The middle eyeball is your primary concern. When it opens up, that giant laser of doom will fire. The other two eyes are available to hit much more frequently. Infinite flight helps with this a lot. I could probably do this using just the whips, but in any case, I would suggest running away from this boss so that it's not on screen most of the time, and then dodging what little you can by moving up and down. That's basically the gist of it. Okay, the middle eye is done. I'm in danger here. When a weak point is destroyed, these invulnerable true eyes of Cthulhu will start their onslaught, including their own weaker versions of some of the attacks. A few unique attacks, like this cluster of 6 eyes that just barely missed me. And now I just have to shoot the core until it dies. Shoot the core, that sounds like a much more fun game I could be playing. Okay, I don't need to be that mean-spirited, but yeah, this is it, basically. Just gotta outrange the lasers and it'll be done in like a few seconds. There we are. That fight is either really easy, like I made it out to be, or incredibly difficult and, quite frankly, unfair. And we get a credits sequence, which is actually kind of cool. I remember when they first added this to the game, I was kind of surprised. You get a whole bunch of stuff from Moon Lord, including a friggin' portal gun. Alright, I need to put it on my hotbar because it uses left and right click. Anyway, I'll go through all this over in my nice little castle. I can get rid of the dragon and the mini-map, I suppose. For what it's worth, I do like these little sequences at the end during the credits. They add a little bit more character. Maybe I could sit on this table, just in case the credits get obscured. I guess if they wanted to, they could keep track of which NPCs you have shimmered or not, so that they can appear there. Although, maybe they just made those cutscenes as pre-rendered videos, so that wouldn't really work. But if they were simulated and they could vary, I guess that would be nice. That's very insignificant. So anyway, Moon Lord, let me talk shit. Each of the 3 eyes, I think the eye on his head just does the big laser and that's it. But the other 2 eyes can leave behind the large eye projectiles, which will all fly towards you after lingering for a bit. They can shoot tiny bolts at you, which are really high velocity and have little to no tell. They can shoot larger homing bolts that chase you and explode, but they veer downwards in a cone, which basically means don't be beneath Moon Lord or you're not going to be able to dodge anything. You might have seen it a few times during that fight. And basically, if you don't continuously run away from Moon Lord, most of his attacks are nigh undodgeable. It's to such an extent that people who wanted to fight Moon Lord without resorting to some cheap tactic like just infinite flight moving across the world would have to build incredibly specific arenas with walls that block specific attacks of Moonlord, but also laid out in a way where you can peek out and shoot at the 3 weak points. I believe a certain famous Terraria challenge runner who vanished off the face of the earth fought Moonlord like that. And it is impressive, but it's also like, come on. Why is this fight so ridiculous? Why does it just expect you to have a giant pre-built arena or just fly around in open space? Or ride around on a minecart track or some nonsense like that. For the record, if you get too far away from Moonlord, he'll teleport to your position. So the best cheese is to just stay in that medium range where most of the attacks can't hit you, but he's also not going to teleport to you. That's what I was trying to do. There's a specific thing. Right. One cheesy strategy is the fire blocks that deal damage over time to you while you're standing on them. Those fire blocks, they used to trigger iframes, so players would just grapple onto a fire block and be effectively immune to Moonlord's attacks. So that's why fire blocks were changed to not trigger iframes. Which, in my opinion, if most of the community wants to cheese your final boss, the solution is not to remove the cheese, it's to make the final boss so good that they don't want to cheese it. Maybe removing the cheese would be fine then, because I would respect the boss myself and I wouldn't care. But in any case, people can still cheese Moonlord. One example, the giant Death Ray. It used to be blocked by any tiles. So this one tile floor I have here would block the laser if I was beneath it. And they realized that people are taking advantage of that by just keeping Moonlord such that the eye is always between a wall of one tile thickness and the player, so that the laser can never hit the player. So they made the laser pierce through a certain number of tiles. They'd have to be much thicker than that, to the point where cheese strategies don't work that way anymore. But I've seen the most recent cheese for Moonlord, which involves teleporters. So essentially you trigger a teleporter the moment the giant laser is about to fire, and it sends you outside of its range. By the time Moonlord catches up with you, the laser is finished and can't hit you. And then you just have walls that block all the other attacks. So this continuous arms race, where the players are trying to cheese a, quite frankly, not very good boss, and the developers are trying to remove the cheese, it just seems so pointless to me. They should just focus on making Moonlord a much better boss, and honestly changing the lunar invasion. Right now, I'm very happy with Lunatic Cultist inside that pre-generated dungeon. I think the fight works really well in there, but everything past him is as bad as it ever was, in my opinion. And the thing is, the mod that I want to play for this channel genuinely pretty much fixes the Moonlord and makes it an amazing boss fight. I think Realogic should take notes, because that fight is so cool. And takes inspiration from the Celestial Pillars in the lunar event. But we'll get to that when we get to that. I'm getting kind of excited thinking about it, but I'm gonna need to take a break for more reasons than one. Urimir. That's right. Whatever happened to Urimir, man? I haven't looked into it, but he just stopped uploading one day. I'm sure many people know him, but the friends I played Terraria with in high school did watch Urimir with me. We would even use his videos for reference. Like, instead of checking the wiki, we just check his his checklist for the dungeon and all of its loot, for example. I do remember that. You see how silly the NPCs look not being able to navigate my castle here? That's a little distracting to me right now. The thing is, all in all, I thought there was one last scene after the credits. That would have been great, but anyway. I will place the Moon Lord's relic up here. Maybe you need something specific to trigger that scene, so I just didn't fulfill the requirements, perhaps. That's pretty much everything. I might do a little extra of just me beating Daytime Empress of Light, but I'm not even sure it would be that interesting, honestly. We'll see. Maybe I won't feel like it. In any case, you get this cool thing that I think might be a reference to Kirby. If you hold down while flying, you can just move perfectly horizontally. I think it's a master mode item. No, it's an expert mode item, that's right. Master has little to nothing. I have the best sentry in the game, for what it's worth. I think these shoot sweeping lasers. High damage, but I've beaten the game, so it's whatever. The gravity globe is just an infinite gravitation potion. I don't see what the point in that is at all. I already have infinite gravitation potions if I wanted them. This might be the best light pet in the game. Its iris changes to indicate certain things. Oh yeah, that's what the Empress's wings look like. It's just like her wings, obviously. Luminite is what you need to make the best armor by turning it into bars at the... Again, I just can't remember the name of this damn thing. Ancient Manipulator. I think by the end of this playthrough, I've just ran out of steam. I go through cycles with Terraria. There's a new update, I feel like playing it. And then by the end of it, I question why I still play it. It almost sounds like an abusive relationship, doesn't it? But oh well. That's too mean-spirited, actually. I do still enjoy this game enough, or else why would I be doing this? I can at least showcase that the portal gun works exactly the way you would think it does. It preserves momentum and everything. People have made fun little maps using it. I think there are tiles that are portalable and unportalable. It's a bit of a tongue twister. So you could make 2D test chambers if you wanted to. Yeah, genuinely at a loss for words. Well, I guess I can say something about what comes next, since this is the last part. Something is coming up in April, and I think I'll be busy until late April, and until then I just want to take it easy, prepare for that, play some more games. I'm still unhappy with my backlog, and maybe, let's say, very late April or early May, I will start a playthrough of a very, very good and very difficult game. I've made up my mind. I love that game a lot. It's maybe the polar opposite of this, where it's much more difficult, has basically no busy work. It's much more unforgiving and way more fair than Terraria, but it's also just pure challenge and basically nothing else. But some games I like just for that reason, and I found that the more time I spend on games in general, the more I value challenge for the sake of challenge, personally. When it's well crafted, of course, when it's the core of what I find compelling about games as a medium, pushing themselves and me at the same time. And I can reach some pretty satisfying heights, which sort of applies to the mod I want to play. Which is not the next playthrough. But one day I will play Fargo's Soul mod, Masochist mode. Yeah, that's what it's called. I think I've beaten Eternity mode. Masochist is even harder, so I'm gonna have to practice a bunch, but I'm also waiting on the... Apparently there's gonna be an update to Fargo's Soul mod, and it's going to rebalance a lot of things. Maybe change bosses? Maybe add new bosses? I actually have no idea. I haven't been following it that closely. But I'm kind of excited about that. That is all. For the last time in this Summoner playthrough of Terraria, thank you for watching.